Let's now look at default values. These are, as the name stands, default values that can be provided when the column value is not specified as part of the insertion statement. Let's see this a bit more in detail. Here we have a note table with the content and created at columns. Here the created at column has a default of current underscore date. That is, in the SQLite 3 world, it will insert the current date when the created at column does not carry a value. So here is the insert statement that makes use of this feature. We have an insert into note, and here we are specifying just the content, and then in the values we have just one row being inserted. You'll notice here that the date gets inserted because we have a default of current underscore date. One thing to note is that you can still specify an insert containing two columns, that is content and created at, and provide your own created at value as well, in which case this section, the default current underscore date, won't kick in. So if you provided null as a value for created at, then null is what will get stored. If you gave a different date other than, or any date for that matter, then SQLite will obediently go ahead and store that value. Here's another practical use case for default values. So we have a visitor log that contains two columns, IP and visited at. IP is going to contain the IP of the visitor, of course, with the default of unknown visitor. So if someone had basically hidden their IP, or if your system is unable to determine their IP, instead of having a null, you probably want to have a sensible default like unknown visitor. And of course, visited at is going to carry the date time as the column type, and the default value is going to correspond to the current timestamp. Here we can either insert any one particular column. If we had just specified the visited at, then the IP would be treated as unknown visitor. If we specified just the IP, then visited at would get populated automatically, which is very much the common sense use case. And finally, when we don't want to specify either of the columns, here's how the insert statement would look. Insert the visitor log and then default values. So when we look at the output of a select statement, it will just have the defaults, that is unknown visitor and the timestamp when this insertion took place.